Hello, welcome back to another art talk video. Today I'm going to be telling you about my print Asia Juice. And to start off, we have to go back to high school. So in high school I had a friend and one day was over at their house just hanging out. And this friend's parents had one of their friends over who was fully an adult man. Never met this dude in my life before. And his first question to me being at this time, a high school girl, was, "What kind of Asian are you?" And it's lived in my brain for so long, because that's just a wild question to ask someone out of the blue. No hello, no hi, no my name is, what's your name? Just straight up, what kind of Asian are you? And especially wild when you consider like age dynamics, like this is fully an adult man talking to a teenage girl. Anyways, I responded. I told him what my ethnicity was because I was just like, I don't know what to do here. But that kind of lived in my brain for a really long time. So fast forward to when I was a senior in college, I was working on creating a series of prints based on my experience growing up as biracial. And one of the things that I talked about in that art piece, because I wrote on all of them, kind of just my ramblings about my thoughts and experiences, was about this experience that happened in high school. And one of the things that I said that I feel like kind of stuck with other people as well was, after talking about this experience, saying, I don't have a kind, I'm not juice. Juice has a kind. Like, you can ask, what kind of juice do you like? But I don't have a kind. That's a weird way to say it. I remember seeing some people like kind of laughing, other Asian people laughing at that, because I think it's such a shared Asian American experience of being asked some form of, what kind of Asian are you? Where are you from? Like, where are you really from? Something that you hear quite a lot. So that little line from that project spun out this print, and I wanted to create juice because juice has a kind, and create different juices for some of the different Asian countries. I honestly didn't have a very thought out plan of how I was going to choose the countries. I won't say this is super well researched. I was looking at fruits that were associated with some of the different Asian countries using Wikipedia for country fruits. And so these associations are based off of that, so take that as you will. I kind of just chose the fruits and countries that I felt were fun and kind of represented more like Asian fruits. And so what that ended up with was dragon fruit from Vietnam, kiwis from China, durian from Indonesia, and I have a funny story about the durian, mangosteen from Thailand, Asian pear from South Korea, and finally persimmon from Japan. So going back to the durian, one question that I get a lot at markets, because the way I have my print set up, you can usually just see like the top row of the fruits kind of peeking out, or sometimes only the top right, which is the durian juice. And so a question I get a lot is, wow, is there really durian juice? And I always have to be like, I don't know. This isn't something that's based off of real juices found in real life. It's based off of, well, you know now, my experiences with microaggressions and racism. So I don't actually know if there is durian juice. So if you know that there is durian juice, please tell me so that I can then tell these people at markets that, yeah, there is durian juice. You can find it XYZ. So going back to the art, the last thing about this art print that I think is kind of important to the overall story is, if you look closely, you can actually see that there's writing in the background. This is reminiscent of writing I did on those pieces that I did for my senior year of college. So those pieces that I did in my senior year were done half digital and half physical media, done with screen printing and mono printing. And what I did afterwards was I physically wrote over them because these weren't going to be mass produced or anything like that. And so what I did this time for these prints is I wrote over them digitally, and I made sure that every word was technically legible, but I wrote in cursive and I lowered the color to a very, very light gray. So if you try really hard, you can probably read the words that I wrote back there. And again, it's all about my different experiences with microaggressions and racism from being half Asian. But it's not something that jumps out at you immediately, and I kind of like that because it makes the print a lot more approachable than just screaming racism and microaggressions at you, which would be pretty off-putting, I think. But it has that embedded in there still, and I really, really like that. So if you see me at a market, feel free to pick up this print, try and read some of it, learn some not so good things that I've had to experience, including the story that we talked about earlier about that man asking me, "What kind of Asian are you?" And then I figure I should probably tell you how I actually made this print. So this print is actually my only one that is done in Procreate. I did this print in Procreate, and it was a big learning curve because I'm very used to working in vector formats. And so something different about vector formats versus raster, which is what Procreate is in. Vector, you can resize to your heart's content and you won't lose any clarity in how that shape or piece of art looks. In raster, if you size up, you're going to lose clarity because raster is made out of pixels. And so learning how to create this artwork at the scale that I wanted it to be at on the first go was a learning curve, because previously I could just work at whatever size I want and I don't have to worry about sizing it. But this time I actually did have to worry about sizing it. So I did a couple goes of this actually, because I created a couple of the juices at a smaller scale and then realized, oh, I can't just size them up. So I had to redo those ones at the size that I wanted. Luckily, I had those previous creations for reference at this point, and then I was able to do the rest of them at the correct size, but it was definitely a learning curve. But to this day, I actually haven't done another print in Procreate because my brain just works in layers for some reason when it comes to digital media. You can kind of see this through the amount of printmaking that I do, which also operates in layers, and the fact that I do a lot of vector artwork, which also operates in layers or big blocks of color. So for some reason, my brain kind of struggles with more painterly, like digital painting types of mediums. And if I practiced, I'm sure I would get better, because all art is lots of practice. But as it stands, I have not dedicated enough time to practicing that. So it's something that maybe I'll work on in the future to get better at. But thank you for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to subscribe. I post a new video every Monday. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!